To everyone. Right, we've got the notification now. We're officially live. Okay, so good afternoon to all the panelists and attendees that have joined us today for the second webinar in the GBS LEP Skills for Growth series. My name's Evelia and I am a skills broker over here at the GBS LEP Skills Hub. So over the next 45 minutes, we will be providing you with all the information that you need to understand TLevels as a skills solution and sharing with you some of the benefits that TLevels can hopefully bring to your business. The aim is to help you to decide really whether this development program is the right solution for your business where you are at this point in time, and even thinking a little bit further ahead as well. So before we get into the main delivery of the webinar, I just wanted to give you all a very quick introduction and overview of the Skills Hub to share with you, who we are and just exactly how we are helping and supporting local businesses. So we launched in December 2020, and we are an integral part of the GBS LEP Growth Hub. So our services, we focus on providing impartial advice and guidance to SMEs that trade within the 9 Greater Birmingham and Solihull districts. So in short, that includes East Staffordshire, Lichfield, Cannock Chase, Tamworth, Birmingham, Solihull, Bromsgrove, Redditch and the Wyre Forest. Now, our aim and our focus is to connect. We want to connect local employers to our network of local authorities, training providers and colleges. Helping the businesses really that we support to find the best skill solutions to promote and grow a talented workforce. To enable us, we've skipped ahead a bit there. To enable us to provide this service to local businesses, we've designed a holistic training needs analysis, which in essence is an assessment tool, and it allows us to do 3 things. So the first is to understand the structure of your business and any skills gaps that may be present. Secondly, to identify the right skill solutions to help you to train and develop your workforce. And thirdly, to connect, as I've mentioned. So to connect your business to one of our approved partners to access the funding and the delivery for your identified skills solution. Now, the Skills Hub is fully funded by the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. So we're able to offer all of our services and the training needs analysis assessment completely free of charge. To date, we've delivered over 100 training needs analysis assessments, and we've supported our employers to be connected to skill solutions such as the Kickstart scheme, Supplier Skills Programme, the Apprenticeship Levy Transfer Scheme, traineeships, and of course, TLevels. So on that note, that's all from me. I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Marianne, who is from the Education and Training Foundation. So I'm just going to stop sharing there for you, Marianne.
Lovely, thank you very much for that introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm actually going to share my screen with you as well. So let's hope this works. You should be able to see that.
Yeah.
How's that?
Brilliant.
Good. Brilliant. Hello, everybody. So my name is Mariam Hassan. I'm from an organisation called the Education Training Foundation. And I'm going to talk to you today about TLevels, tell you a little bit about them, what they are. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit today about industry placements for students who are taking TLevels, and also our own programme, which we've developed for staff, which is called Industry Insights, and how to get involved. So first of all, who are we, the Education and Training Foundation? Well, we are a charity, and we're the expert body for professional development and standards in further education, FE and training in England. And we exist to support learners through professional staff development. So we work with staff in FE and training providers across the country. So we've been commissioned by the Department for Education with a very specific remit, and that is to develop and deliver a T-level professional development offer for those colleges and for those providers, sixth form centres and schools, etc., training providers who are going to be offering these T-levels. So that's what we've been commissioned to do. So what are these TLevels then? So they're technical levels. They are 2-year programs. I call them programs rather than courses. So they're 2-year programs for 16 to 19-year-old learners. And 1 TLevel is equivalent to 3 A-levels. So they're really big programs. They've been developed in line with employers to meet the needs of industry, and they are mentioned in the government's industrial skills strategy. They are a mixture of classroom learning and on-the-job experience or an industry placement, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. So if you're familiar with apprenticeships, where a young person is employed by an employer, and they spend 80% of their time in work and 20% of their time in a classroom learning, TLevel is the exact mirror image of that. On a TLevel program, a young person is spending 20% of the time, or 315 hours, or approximately 45 days, in an industry placement with an employer. And the rest of the time, 80% of the time, they're in the classroom at their college, their sixth form centre, or their school learning. So TLevels comprise of a kind of mixture between practical tasks, academic projects, and exams as well as obviously the really important acquisition of skills and behaviours. So industry placements for the learners on TLevels are a mandatory and key part of the qualification. So they won't be able to complete their programme or complete their qualification unless they've been out on that industry placement. So the progression opportunities for learners are into skilled employment, into higher level apprenticeships, or even onto university and further study. So that's quite different to what's come before. So these are very, very new. And as I said, they do sit alongside or exactly the same level and opportunities afterwards as A-levels. So the first 3 T-levels they've already started delivery, and they started in September 2020, last year. And they were in construction, digital, education, childcare. And there are going to be further T-levels available from September 2021 and beyond. And here they all are, so you can see them all in their entirety. So along the top level of these columns, in the white writing, we call that the TLevel Root. So let's take, for example, the digital route. So if you look on the bottom left of the table, so the digital route has 3 separate T-levels: digital business services, digital production design and development, and digital support and services. So one learner would take one of those, so let's say digital business services, for the whole 2 years. So they don't take all 3, so they just take one. But within that T-level, there will be further specialisms which young people can specialise in. So for example, if we look at the health route, health and science, that's the route, the health T-level, but within the health T-level, there's a specific pathway for supporting adult nursing, there's another one for supporting midwifery teams, and so on. So a learner would do all the core subjects for the health T-level, but then they would specialise in adult nursing, supporting adult nursing, or supporting midwifery, and so on. So they're very sizable, there are a lot of them. And also when you get these slides, you can see it's color coded so that you can see which T-levels and which T-level routes are coming out, are already live in 2020 in the red, are coming out from this September in the purple, are coming out from next September 2022 in the green, and coming out in 2023. And alongside each T-level is a specification that is published by the awarding body. They're very lengthy documents, about 145 pages each. And that goes through every single objective that needs to be taught and delivered, not how to teach it, but what must be taught, what learning must be undertaken by the student. So I'm quite happy to provide a link to where those are. So the full specifications for all of them haven't been released yet, because some of them are still being, sort of nailed down. But obviously the ones for 2020 are available, and 2021 as well. Okay. So this slide here shows you a little bit of a kind of comparison. So if you're thinking about A-levels, they're subject-based qualifications, they're post-GCSE, they're 2 years long, and the purpose is predominantly, although not exclusively, to prepare learners for higher education. And you can see here the comparison between TLevels and apprenticeships, although they're very, very different, and that's really important to get across. TLevels are predominantly classroom-based, knowledge-based, academic qualifications on equivalent level academically with A-levels, but they do have that mandatory 20% industry placement. So you can see the comparison there and the differences between TLevels and apprenticeships. And again, the purpose predominantly with both of those is to prepare learners for entry into skilled employment, including high-level apprenticeships or technical training at level 4 or above. So I said that TLevels are like a program rather than a course, and they are combined of these 3 predominantly sort of separate areas. The technical qualification, which covers a core element of underpinning knowledge, the specialism, which I talked about, where more knowledge, skills and behaviours are built up, and also an employer set project. Now, those employer set projects actually come from the exam board, and they've been worked out in consultation with employers. So it's not the employers who are offering the placements for students that set the project. So if you're thinking later on in this presentation, oh, I'd like to offer a placement, don't be worried, you don't have to set a project. So those projects come from the exam boards. And then there's the industry placement, as I said, which is 315 hours or 45 days approximately. They have to be with an external employer, and they have to be physical. They cannot be virtual at the moment. And these help the learners to use and refine the skills that they're learning in the classroom. Now, the placements are unpaid, so there's no requirement for employers to pay students on the placement, although they can contribute if they want to. And then there's the element of English and maths. So there's a specific level which students need to attain to in order to complete the whole programme if they're not at that level before they join the programme. And then lastly, employers can specify working closely with local providers if there are any additional like short qualifications or certificates which learners need to undertake. So that could be, for example, a health and safety or a food safety certificate. And this last slide here shows you how UCAF tariff points are awarded on the completion of a T-level programme. So you can see here that students can gain a distinction, an A+ on the core, and distinction in the occupational specialism, a distinction, a merit, a pass C or above on the core, or a pass D or E on the core, and then how that compares to A-levels, and also what UCAS points would be offered by universities if they decide to open their programs and courses to T-level learners. So what are the benefits for learners of undertaking this industry placement then? Because this is a key part of the qualification. So the benefits for learners, it can really introduce them to local businesses. It can help to embed real experience of the workplace into their programme and into their learning, provide progression opportunities. It helps really develop their employability skills, behaviours, aptitudes and attitudes. It underpins the theory and the knowledge that they're learning in the classroom, can really help them to think about their next steps and their career progression opportunities, or what they want to do next in terms of further study if they decide not to go straight into skilled employment. And of course, it helps to develop their technical skills. So that's why it's a really crucial part of the programme for them and really, really beneficial. But what are the benefits for employers such as yourselves? Well, by working closely with a local FE provider or a school that's offering T-levels, and by taking a young person on in an industry placement, it really can help for you to build your pipeline, your workforce for the future in terms of recruitment. It's also really good development for staff. So staff really can get a lot out of this by mentoring a young person. It can really hone their own skills, their supervisory skills, their mentoring skills, their coaching skills, and so on. So you can think of it really, if you like, as development for your own staff, especially those staff who maybe you want to bring on into more senior roles. It supports local economies by employing people locally in the long run, and helps you to develop further and closer relationships with FE or T-level providers. And what's important about that is it can help you to grow your business. So it could be, for example, that you've been thinking about getting an apprentice, but you're not really quite sure how to do it, or whether it would benefit your business or not, or maybe you're a bit nervous of taking that first step. But by developing that relationship with the FE provider, it could open up other opportunities for you as well in terms of business growth, but also because FE institutions sometimes are able to provide programs which can also provide free training for your own staff as well. So it's really worth having a talk with them about what they can offer you in your business. So very new, hot off the press, there are also financial incentives which employers can now claim if they're offering a placement to a T-level learner, and they can claim up to £1,000 per placement per learner, up to a maximum of 20 learners. So again, I'm quite happy to provide the link where you can look up further information about that. So what about us, the ETF? What's our involvement? So I said earlier on that we've been commissioned by the Department for Education to design and deliver a programme to help support all the colleges, the FE providers and the schools that are going to be delivering these T-levels. So we've done that through a wide programme called our T-level Professional Development Offer. And you can see all the different elements of it here: understanding T-levels, route and role specific training, professional development for leaders, networks, T-level resource improvement projects or trips, and last but not least, industry insights, which is something I'm going to talk to you about today. So I won't go into all the ins and outs of the different parts of the programme. They are for staff, but only for staff who are actually delivering the T-levels in the FE providers and the schools and the colleges and training providers and so on. So they're not necessarily open to all of T-level employers, for example. But industry insights is the bit that I coordinate in the Southwest and also in the Midlands, and I have colleagues in the North, in the Southeast London and the East of England as well. So what are they? So I've spoken about how students can go out on a placement, or rather how it's mandatory for them to go out on a placement. But Industry Insights offers an opportunity for staff also to engage with industry professionals and also with employers on an industry experience. So part of my role is to meet with employers and to meet with teachers, for example, or work experience placement officers, for example, from those providers, and to introduce them to each other for the provider staff to be able to go out on a work placement for 1, 2, 3 or 5 days maximum with an employer. We also organise virtual placements as well, so that would be a series of meetings with some key people within an organisation or an employer for that member of staff to gain an insight into that industry, ask any questions that they've got. I also organise mentoring programmes. So that's, for example, where I find an industry expert with a specific skill and match them up to, for example, a teacher who over a period of a few months will work with that mentor so that they can really hone their understanding of their industry and the T-level curriculum that that mentor can help them with, so that they can take all of that learning back in the classroom to benefit their learners. And I also organise webinars, very similar to this really, where I invite industry experts to come along and to talk about a specific thing within their industry which they would like to communicate to the FE sector related to T-levels. And then we have a question and answer with all those participants afterwards. Or it could be that I've had a number of people from the colleges, the staff that have said to me, oh, would it be possible, could you find somebody that could do a talk on this or that? And then I will find somebody to deliver it. So just to give you an example of what that has been like, I've been working very closely with the Met Office in the Southwest, and they've done a webinar on digital agile project management methodologies. And they also did one on data, transferring very, very, very large amounts of data from the Met Office and pushing that data envelope across the world, and how they do that and the challenges involved and so on. So I've also been working with construction companies, and we've been doing webinars on aerial surveying, on the HS2 line, and project management methodologies in construction as well. So that just gives you a bit of a flavour of some of the things that we've been doing. So those are the opportunities on the Industry Insights programme for provider staff. So why am I talking to you about it, your employers? So obviously I work very closely with employers. I'd love it if you wanted to get involved in offering a placement for a member of staff. It's an opportunity again to indirectly invest in your future workforce, because they are, after all, training your future workforce. And it's an opportunity for you to influence and shape the way your future workforce is trained by working with the staff who are delivering the TLevels. And that can help to address the skills gap for the future as well. And likewise, it can help you develop closer working relationships with providers and schools. And it can be a really, really good way to think about whether you want to offer a student placement by offering staff placement, because then you can get to know the staff, you can communicate with the staff about what's expected of T-level learners, what you can expect, what they can expect, how you're going to work together. And it really helps cement that relationship, and it helps you to prepare to take a student, and it helps all those involved in the planning and delivery of T-levels to make sure that they are preparing their students, their learners, to be able to do a placement with you. And it's also an opportunity through the workshops, for example, for you to facilitate a wider understanding and appreciation of your industry and any technological advances that are coming out, or any changes in the law or specifications or standards or policies. So it really helps to enhance your reputation. It can, or maybe can, contribute towards business growth, and it enables you to be a voice of influence in education. So the benefits for the staff and the providers of doing a placement with you, I'm sure, are really clear, I would hope. It's an opportunity for them to invest in their professional development in order to benefit their learners who are your future workforce. It helps to develop a wider understanding and appreciation of your industry, which they can take back into the classroom to add value to their teaching. It helps them to stay on top of and raises awareness of contemporary practices and technological advances in the industry. And it helps to create a more defined line of sight to employment for their learners through their own experiences as members of staff. And it helps them to develop those longer term relationships with regional employers, which is all part of the government's industrial strategy. So how do you get involved if you're interested in any of those opportunities? If you're interested in offering a placement for a student, then my advice would be to get in touch with your local colleges, or maybe through Evelia, she can let you know who the colleges and schools and training providers are in your area who are offering T-levels, and which T-levels they're offering that are relevant to your business. Because colleges don't have to offer all the T-levels, they can offer as many or as few as they like, and they don't have to offer all the specialisms either. So you might get a provider that is only offering the supporting nursing T-level as part of their health TLevel Root, for example. So I'm sure, I hope I'm not speaking for you, Evelia, but hopefully you'll be able to point people in the right direction if they want to take on a student. And I would recommend that they do that through talking to the local colleges. Is that right, Evelia? Is that okay?
Absolutely, absolutely, Marianne. That is the best way, yeah.
Great. And if you're interested in taking on a staff placement through Industry Insights, and you think, yes, you know, I could do that, I'd be quite happy for a member of staff to come in for a day or 2 days, or do a virtual placement, or actually I would really like to be able to offer a workshop webinar, quite interested in doing that, what does that involve, then all my details are here. Or you can also get in touch with me through Evelia as well. And if you just want to talk about it a little bit further, there's absolutely no commitment whatsoever. We can just jump on a call, Zoom or Teams, whatever's suitable for you, and we can talk through the options and work out what would be right for you. And you don't have to offer everything. So if you just want to offer one small element and just try it and see how it goes, that's absolutely fine, no problem at all. So there's a few further links here for your information. I might just drop one more in before I email this to Evelia, and that's about the incentive payment, which isn't on here yet because that's quite new. So I'll make sure I put a link in here to that as well, so you can find out more information about that. And that's it. Thank you very much. And thank you, Evelia, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Marianne. That is brilliant. I'm just going to share my screen again, so we can bring up the slides for delivery for the next key speakers.
want to lean into your bit first, and then lean out, and I'll do my bit.
Yeah. We can't see
Right.
anything really at the moment, so
Nothing at the moment.
is Waka putting the slides up, is he?
No,
Oh.
it should be sharing with you all. Bear with me a second. Okay. How's that, guys? Is that showing now?
That's perfect, thank you, Vilia. My name is Mohammed May. I'm the head of School for Computing and Emerging Technologies at Solihull College, and we've been working on industry placements and sort of placement sort of type of experimental concepts for a long time, even before the TLevels emerged, and been working with my colleague here, Mick Westman. So, Mick, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so thank you, Mohammed. I'm Mick Westman. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Digital Innovators that specialises in training young people in employability skills, specifically in the digital space.
Yeah, next slide, please, Vilia. A bit of background, and Mick came to me about 4 years ago, and we had a meeting about FE and how employment, how we had a vision, aligned vision, where how we can incorporate a talent pipeline within our computing department, and then we started to work with a group of students where we looked at the concept of uh, what employers need and how we can connect these students with employers. So what the students did was they worked on short projects linked to certain employers and then worked on industry placements, and then some of them secured sort of work, part-time work or full-time work with them employers, and it was a great success. And the main vision was to create a talent pipeline within the department, and it was quite complicated because how employment would fit into FE and a timeline, how we start in September, finish in June, and employers, they don't do that. It works as a cycle. So it was quite a challenge. And yeah, and since then we've grown, and Mix worked on our industry placement pilots where our program at the moment, Mick can access all my student timetables, and the way we deliver industry placement pilots is that once we've done our current teaching timetable, we can allocate a day to Mick Westman's team, and that day is linked to that student's timetable. And what happens is that Mick will run his course. Initially he'll do an initial diagnostic on where the students are at and which career pathway in the computing and digital industry they want to take, and then he'll link them to employers and allocate them onto certain projects. And then we've had a lot of success with students where some of the students have secured apprenticeships with the employers because the employers have invested a lot of time with these students, and they're happy with their performance, and the behaviors and knowledge and skills that have been developed through this collaborative process has helped that student either get a part-time job or an apprenticeship.
Shall I fill in a bit more detail?
Yeah, if you want to add to that, Mick.
So, thanks, Mohammed. And this really builds on the work that Marion has already shared with you. So I'm not going to repeat everything that Marion has already said. I will throw a couple of qualifications in along the way so we don't confuse you. But as Mohammed said, we looked at a collaborative approach that joined the college, the employers, and ourselves together. And we put the students very much at the centre of this. What we didn't know 3 years ago was that this was going to be very much aligned to the T-level progression and the way T-level would work. So I'm now going to position this back into the T-level program so you can see how this works. But specifically, we look at technical skills, behavioural skills, and application. And the best way to look at that is that the technical skills are provided by the college. The behavioural skills are and technical skills are provided by the employers and ourselves, and then that the actual delivery, the application of those skills, it takes place with the employer, either directly in a work-related activity or in a small project. I said I'd throw in some qualifications. This is not the employer set project that Marion talked about. We have got a slight issue with language ourselves at the moment, is that employer set projects are mentioned in TLevels, and we also talk about projects with employers, which can confuse things. But I guess if you go to the next slide, please. We took a view that there were three things that for an industry placement to be successful for an employer, from an employer's perspective, there were three things that an employer needed to see as returning to them. And we looked at them as recruitment opportunity, some way of improving their business or growing their business, and their value in the local community, which fits very well with the 5 steps that Marion talked about. And so we look to work directly with an employer. We go to an employer, first of all, this is Digital Innovators, go to an employer and look and work with them at some sort of business improvement activity that they want to carry out, but they can't afford, or that you may not have the money, time or resources to put together to do that. We then build a plan with that employer to say how can that activity be delivered in your work premises with a small team of young people, supported by professionals from Digital Innovators. And then we prepare that plan, and we prepare those students, sorry, not the plan, we prepare the students by giving them some of the softer skills needed, ready for their placements. I think Marianne talked about the total time is about 315 hours for an industry placement. We spend about 30 hours of that 315 preparing the students before we put them out to an employer. And then it's down to the employers then to basically work with their employer to deliver their projects. And that can be anything from building a website to creating a database, or even a full-blown app solution. The important thing, though, is that it's actually based on the T-level program that the student is actually studying. So in this case, it's all built around digital production, design and development. So it reinforces the skills that they're actually studying at the college. If you go to the next slide, please. I think Marion's probably already covered the benefits to employers, but from our lens, working with Solihull College, we are able to give employers a solution to a business problem that they may be facing. Those employers are able to gain insight into the sorts of things, the art of the possible, as we call it, using digital technologies. As Marion has already said, it's an opportunity for the employer to meet new talents and also to improve diversity in the workforce. And we also position it as giving back to the local community through CSR. From the learner's perspective, you know, they're gaining experience working with real business leaders. They're working with an established local employer. We try and stay with employers local to the college. They're building their personal networks, they're gaining the skills, and they're also able to get insights and provide insights and new ideas and different ways of thinking from a young person's perspective, as opposed to maybe someone like myself who's probably a little bit old and grey now in some of my thinking. If you go to the next slide.
I just want to add there that I think from our journey working with digital innovators, we realized early on that the students have got the knowledge and that has been delivered within the classroom, but it's the softer skills that needed development and nurturing, and sort of the basic small skills on how to run a meeting and how to the etiquettes of which we're going to talk about, Mick. So
you carry on.
Just want to emphasize that them are the skills that Mick's team works on, and they also don't just align a student randomly to an employer. There are diagnostic processes in place where they diagnose the student. Is this student going to be a programmer? Is this student a project manager? Is this student a business analyst? So there's a lot going on and a lot of work being into the intelligence of how a student is linked to the employer, which is quite unique and yeah, really, really good.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I mean, a lot of those points are covered on this slide, and probably though the most important thing about this slide for me is the quote on the bottom left-hand corner from one of Mohammed's students who worked with a company called
Hannah.
TechWizard, and has gone on actually to be employed by TechWizard as a graduate apprentice. But it was about building confidence. What we find is that the big thing about industry placement is it builds the confidence of the young person, builds their motivation, gives them a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And so by delivering something that's of value to the employer, we're also building huge value back with the young person at the same time.
I mean, especially in the current climate, and I think we can't just grab a student off a course and just plonk them onto industry placement.
No.
The nurturing and the infrastructure in the background is probably as important as working with that employer, because you could just send a student and they just do data entry, and that won't be beneficial to any industry placement students. But the work that's gone on in the background is very important.
Yeah, that's a good point. Next slide, please. So we talk a lot about root-based work-related projects. One of the things that industry placements and TLevels are very keen on is making sure that the work activity that the student undertakes is real and it has real meaning and real value. And as a result of that, when we talk about projects with an employer, we're not really talking about the project as much as something that the employer actually needs today, and that you may need help with. So therefore, you're bringing somebody into your business who's got skills that you may not have, but that those skills may need honing and tuning. So you have to be aware that a student coming into a business for the first time working on app development, they may have studied app development, but they certainly won't have had to do it in a work environment. So they need the support and mentoring from your staff to do that. It's also important that the student can see a career pathway. So when they're with your business, they can see a reason for being there and where it might take them in their career, and that they're treated meaningfully. And what we mean by that is that they're actually able to interact with staff on the ground and actually feel that they're part of a team, not a student that's just been brought in and stuck in a corner. We worked with lots of employers. One of the examples, again, shown on this slide, Birmingham City Council. I think we're quite surprised at the sorts of ideas that these young people were able to bring. We use a lot of business improvement tools at Digital Innovators, like Six Sigma, like design thinking and project management. But with those tools and the insights and knowledge that a young person brings, they can bring some very radical insights into a business challenge. Which is really, I think, the value that we've been able to add to the process. In that, the college has been brilliant at providing us with the technical skilled students, and we're able to turn them into students with employers that can add real value locally. Okay, the next slide, please. So what does it mean to an employer, to our employers anyway? Well, you need to be happy to work with a small team of young people on a business problem. This is in our process. A small team can be anything from 2 to 5 students. They ideally need to be located at your workplace for a minimum of a day a week. A typical project can be anything from 15 to 45 days, to give you an idea of scale. Digital Innovators will facilitate the business improvement process within your business at no cost, because that's actually part of the process for industry placements. So we come in and facilitate a business improvement process to give the projects meaningful activity for the students to undertake and deliver. We would encourage that you provide mentorship to the students on that business solution as they go through. And also we're very keen to see, as would happen in the workplace, midpoint and endpoint assessments as the students complete their tasks, no different than you would expect from a member of your team. And the great thing that Marion has already shared with you is that for employers who want to host placements between the 27th of May this year and the 31st of July next year, there's an incentive payment of £1,000 per student for any students that you may take on. Next slide, please. This is just to give you an idea of the scale of companies that we started to work with through Solihull College, and the confidence that these companies have in the Solihull College students working on real business improvement projects. And these aren't small companies. West Midlands Police, we've been working on a knife crime project and to understand perception of knife crime. Taran 3D is a digital graphics company, and they've worked on some work for the Commonwealth Games. And then you've got University Hospital, where the students have been developing solutions for post-operative patients who've had knee surgery. Now, these are 16 to 18-year-olds in an FE college, and some of these projects you'd be surprised to see, qualified, experienced business improvement coaches working on. But we have had a huge impact working in this particular way.
I just want to mention Leap IT. We've actually secured a talent pipeline with Leap IT for the past 2 years. We started through Mix CDF industry placement pilot, and we've actually secured apprenticeships. So I think this is the second cycle now, and
we're just going to be the third cycle.
Third cycle of apprentices. So they've actually taken students on through MIC and on the projects, and then they've moved on to network engineer apprenticeships standard, or the infrastructure technician apprenticeship standard. And as Mick said, third cycle, so it's a success for the pipeline vision.
Next slide, please. We put Sharon Jeet's story in here to give you a sort of a balance view, if you like, around how an employer sees an industry placement and how a student sees an industry placement. So from a employer's perspective, James Carrington, as the CEO over at Vanti, was truly surprised at the depth and speed that students picked up and understood his business problem, and that they were able to bring the skills that they'd learned through their T-level course, which is already running at Solihull College, and actually apply them. With Sharon Jeet, it goes back to that confidence point. She was more surprised about how it helped her build her confidence. And in fact, the funny thing about Sharon Jeet is that she actually isn't one of Mohammed's students. She's a different student in the college who wasn't studying digital, but has ended up in a digital job. And the reason being that her strengths were more about sort of science, if you like, sciences, but she then realised that using her science skills and a digital solution, she was able to actually produce something for Vanti. And I think that gives you a good insight as to how T-levels might work in the future, where you're bringing that experience and knowledge and being able to apply it in a real life environment. Next slide, please. So from our perspective, if you're local to Solihull College, how do you get involved? You've got all the avenues that have already been described by Marion, but if you specifically are local to Solihull College, you do have a business challenge right now that you need some help with, but you don't have the time, resources or knowledge to do that, or to fix that problem, get in touch with us. Our emails are at the bottom here. In doing so, not only will we be helping a young person gain vital work experience, but you'll also be encouraging growth in your business and in terms of the local community. We see this as a win-win-win. So it's a win for the college, it's a win for the students, and it's a win for the employer.
And it's an opportunity for the student, and you'll be surprised as employers that some of these 16-year-olds, they can think out the box. Us older people, we're set in stone, and we've got out the way our mind, but they can be creative, and sometimes as the head of department, they surprise me at some of the solutions and some of the out-the-box ideas and in what's current in the media and stuff like that. So they will come out with a unique solution, and they're really talented.
Yeah, that's about it from us, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And any questions, Evelia?
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic. Thank you all. Thank you to all the guest speakers for sharing that insight and the different the different ways that you are supporting employers as well. So just to really summarize, I mean, to leave the attendees on the call with a few final thoughts. You've heard all of the facts and the benefits and the different, you know, the structure of the TLevels as a development program. Hopefully some of the information that you've heard today has struck a chord with you, and it does align with some of your business plans and aspirations for growth. But, you know, we've spoken about utilising the TLevels placements as potential pipelines for apprenticeship opportunities. Think about, you know, if some of your most senior members of staff were to leave your business, would their skills and expertise leave with them? You know, TLevels are a really great way to, as we've mentioned, invest in some young people within the region and just give them an entry point into a career path, especially in sectors where there may be skills gaps or skills shortages. This is a really great way to bridge that gap. So in terms of, you know, key takeaways from today, if you have, from what you've heard today, if it is something that you'd like to know a little bit more about on a more personal basis, or something, you know, have conversations that are more specific to your business, please reach out to the Skills Hub. I've spoken about the training needs analysis assessment today is a really great way to get, you know, to help us to understand your business and help you identify skills gaps, and of course helping us to connect you to the right avenues to access programs like the TLevels as well. So please keep in touch with us. You've got the details of all of the key speakers that have presented today. And, you know, if you do want to have those one-to-one conversations, our virtual doors are always open. So please do feel free to reach out and get in touch. So that is all in terms of delivery wise. I've mentioned, you know, let's stay connected. The Skills Hub are social, and I've left some of the links to our social handles on the slide there as well. I believe now we've got a bit of time left over for Q&A. If you want to open up the floor, Wakar, for any potential questions, and we'll leave it there. Wakar?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. I'm just checking the chat now. There's actually nothing in the chat. I wondered if Helen, Helen as an attendee, do you want to say something?
No, I was just here to support Aurelia.
Okay. No, nothing in the chat really. Nothing really.
That's always a good sign. It means we've
It's always a good
given
sign.
all the information that we could possibly give. That's always a good sign.
Yeah. Any final words from you guys?
Sorry, so no, that's all from me.
Avelia.
Yeah.
Just as we've not got a question, a thought occurred to me listening to your closing statements and Marion's presentation about experience. And one of the things that we're always looking for is mentors. So if you're in a local business, you've got, you know, you're of an age where you've got a lot of experience, and that experience, you'd like to share that experience with young people, which I think is invaluable. We're always looking for mentors to work alongside some of our students. So if you're interested in being a mentor, I'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Right, so that brings us to the end of today's delivery. Thank you once again to our guest speakers and to Wakar for hosting the webinar. I've mentioned, please feel free to stay in contact, whether that's through the Skills Hub or through to any of the key speakers directly. And we do look forward to hearing from you and to supporting you ongoing with your skills and development journey. So thank you once again. And that brings us to the end of today's webinar.